Hi, my name is Natasha Davis from Because You Can, and welcome to my workshop on change. What does change mean to you? Is it a scary prospect, or do you embrace it? Is it something that you avoid, or something that you jump into wholeheartedly? It may be worth you thinking about how you approach change. Do you move towards pleasure or away from pain? You might interpret change in terms of it being positive or negative. You might have reference points from the past where you've had change and it's been a positive or a negative experience, and this may make you either embrace or avoid change. It may make you move towards pleasure or move away from pain, or sometimes people move towards pain by putting themselves in situations of change in order to grow. Do you problem solve when you get into an environment of change, or do you get stuck? Because that's really important in how you deal with it. Anthony Robbins says, change is inevitable, progress is not. When you work with clients, your clients are no different in how they approach change. The quickest way to make change is to make a decision and take action. And people get stuck at various parts of this process. People can think too much before they get to the decision point. They can get to the decision point but don't take any action. It's all quite important to make that decision and take that action. We think that our clients are different in ways. Maybe they've got mental health problems, maybe they've got drug and alcohol issues, but really when it comes down to change and how people deal with change, there's no difference at all between how they deal with it and how we deal with it. When you're working in a helpful profession, these are some useful beliefs to have, because people think that they're helping, but actually sometimes we're not helping as much as we could. So some useful beliefs to have are focusing on, when you focus on a person's problems, it won't help them to reach their potential. So when you focus on their mental health diagnosis, when you focus on their drug addiction, when you focus on their alcohol addiction, when you focus on the really awful life that someone's had, it doesn't help them reach their potential. It actually disables them rather than enables them. It's much better to focus on what they can do, and believe that they can do it. Humour is a really useful thing because it takes the emotion out of situations, particularly important when change is forced. So, when there's a situation of forced change, then using a bit of humour can help in that way. If you want to change your future, then a good place to start is to change your state. If you've got clients, then you can do things like build rapport, use humour, try and there's a good quote that says, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. If you made it your mission to make sure that everyone you met was in a more positive state when they met you and when they went away from you, then you would be changing their state into something more positive. And that is useful. Right, I want you to notice the feelings that you have around the beliefs that encourage change. Okay, so if you get any uncomfortable feelings around it, or you don't quite believe it, then you need to perhaps be aware that these are things that beliefs that encourage change. So the map is not the territory. So what we know is not all that there is. If we think that we know everything that we know, there's always more. There's always more outside of what we know. So when someone is telling you a story about why they can't do something, that, this is their map, but it is not the territory. There's far more out there. There are answers out there. There are possibilities out there, yeah, that they don't yet know. So it's worth bearing that in mind. A person is not his or her behaviour. We can, it's easy to judge people based on their behaviours, but actually it's much easier to work with people if you can separate the behaviour from a person and believe that a person is not his or her behaviour. So it might be that someone's having quite a lot of difficulty with something, behaving in a particular way, especially with things like anxiety. Somebody might be having difficulty with anxiety, avoiding anxiety. What people tend to do is help them avoid anxiety rather than help them deal with anxiety. So a person is not his or her behaviour. There's a lot more to them. People make the best choices available to them at the time. So for someone who's avoiding anxiety, that may well be the best choice available for them at the time. Doesn't mean it's the best choice, okay? What you have to ask is it giving them the result that they really, truly want? If it's not, maybe they need to change something. There is no failure, there's only feedback. That's a really good one, because everybody seems to be, lots of people are afraid to fail, and sometimes they don't try because they're afraid to fail. But actually, if you think of it as there is no failure, there's only feedback, then it's actually learning. This is how you learn. So I always find that's a really useful one. There is a solution to every problem. Okay, so if you truly believe that there is a solution to every problem, then obviously you're more likely to find a solution. If you don't believe that there is a solution to every problem, then you probably won't find as many solutions as someone who does believe this. If one person can do something, anyone can do it. I come across people all the time that say, I couldn't do that because someone has a special ability, or someone is very positive. I couldn't behave in that way. If one person can do something, anyone can do it. So if you believe that about your clients that you work with or people around you, then you kind of look at them in a different way, and you start to open up the possibilities of what they could achieve. Choice is better than no choice. Okay, so having choices is always better than not having choices. When people believe that the world affects them, everyone does it to them, they're in a little bit of a victim role, then they don't have any choices, because they're giving their control away to other people. So by taking responsibility and thinking, what can I do to change this? This is how they have choices. Change can be fast and easy. I think this is a really big one. I worked in the mental health system. You get a lot in the supporting professions. People don't think that change can be fast. Okay? Change takes time. That's what they say. Change, you've got to get over things. Change takes time. But actually, if you make a decision and take action, it can be instant. And if you look at anybody who's ever given up something, given up smoking, given up drinking, given up reading, whatever they give up, they actually do that quite quickly. They can do it instantly. Yeah, so change can be fast and easy. With things like giving up smoking, we're often conditioned to think that it's difficult or hard. People think that they have a craving every 3 minutes. Well, if you believe you'll have a craving every 3 minutes, you will have a craving every 3 minutes. So this, to believe that if you believe it is easy and you can do it, it's going to be easier. A few more beliefs that encourage change. Every behaviour has a positive intention. Okay, every behavior has a positive intention for the person, not for anybody else, but for that person. So when someone is behaving lawlessly, that behavior has a positive intention. When someone is behaving inappropriately, that behavior, they get something from doing what they do. Now, sometimes it could be that they got something at one time, and this behavior isn't working for them anymore, but they just stuck in it and they keep doing it all the time. But usually they will be getting something positive from it. For example, when you get say someone gets depression and they post on their Facebook about their depression, they will get positive things. They will get people's attention. They will get people hoping that they'll be okay and feel better. So they'll get that, but they'll also get negative things, which is, sometimes they can get quite stuck in that depression. The person with the most flexibility controls the system. When you work with clients, they're sometimes, especially, when I worked in the mental health system, people in general really can be very, very flexible, and in their behaviors, if something doesn't work for them, and they may not be doing this consciously, it may well be unconscious, but if they do something and it doesn't work, they'll do something else, and they'll do something else until they find something that works. So people can be quite flexible. As a practitioner, it pays to be able to be flexible in your behaviors and in your thinking. It also pays in lots of other ways. I mean, if you are wanting to succeed at something, it's very useful to be flexible. But definitely when working with clients, you have to be more flexible than them to be able to help them, really. Otherwise, what happens is when a client comes in and they tell you they've had a terrible week and all of this stuff, then you start to, we all empathize, but sometimes people start to empathize a little bit too much with what they're telling them and how awful it's been. And actually that doesn't help them out of their problem. But to be a bit more flexible and help them out of their problem is useful. People have all the resources they need to bring about change. Anyone at any time can change. Okay, they have everything they need to be able to change. People often think they need more confidence, they need more money, they need more time, all of these things. Anyone can make a change at any time. So that's a really useful belief to have. I want to talk a little bit about problems and solutions, because the problem is what the person knows, and it becomes comfortable because they know it. They have certainty about it. The solution is what they don't know. So it's the unknown, it's uncomfortable, uncertain, and this creates fear. People can have a fear of success as well as a fear of failure. So quickly, this is what happens. When people are unaware of the solution, the problem is huge, but it's what they know. The solution is small, it might be outside of their conscious awareness. So you dip them in the solution. When they become more comfortable with the solution, or they dip themselves in the solution becomes bigger. And then eventually, by dipping themselves in the solution or putting themselves outside of their comfort zone into what could be the solution, the problem shrinks and the solution gets bigger, and they jump to the solution. So when someone has a problem, rather than protecting them from the problem, or empathizing and keeping them in the problem, dip them in the solution. Okay, so in other words, if that was anxiety, you would get them to practice things that cause them a little bit of anxiety, dip them in the solution, get them thinking about what it would be like to not have to have something else. Sorry, you can't do knots because the unconscious mind doesn't do knots. So have a go, give it a try, see what happens.